I'm John Cooper, and along with my partners James and Bernita, I'm here to talk to you about communitarianism. What are the implications for education, by James Arthur.
So what is communitarianism? It's ambiguous, maybe an extension of socialism, a kind of liberalism, perhaps close to fascism, or a reaction to American individualism. A theory of communitarianism emerged that challenged liberal political theory. Amitai Etzioni, pictured here, has led the communitarian movement, and that movement is highly politicized.
Well, some libertarians who also dabbled in the idea of communitarianism, like Charles Taylor, preferred to use the term liberal to describe their philosophy and way of thinking.
So what's communitarianism all about? It's about community, no, not the show. But it does talk about people being embedded in communities. The self is constituted through the community. There's a sharing of cultural traditions, language, history, religion, social understandings, and values are socially formed. With communitarianism, religion is a key concept.
Here's the thing about communitarianism. It's all about those shared family values, social understandings. Values are socially formed, and people are embedded in their communities. For these liberals, society itself is a blank canvas.
Individualism is a threat to communitarianism. And the whole blank canvas idea is just a little too abstract for communitarians. They say it ignores people's moral and social nature. Communitarians feel that society has lost its social solidarity, and individualism destroys communities. So what is society? According to liberal authors like Rawl, Dworkin, and Nozick, society is neutral, a backdrop against which ideas of good can be pursued. Communitarians consider this too abstract and say it ignores people's moral and social nature. According to philosophers like Sandel, liberalism is the politics of rights, while communitarianism is a politics of the common good. This Hegelian view posits that humans are historically conditioned and the self is created through community. Liberals see a danger in that the common good could favor the values of the most powerful in society. In 1990, the term communitarianism was officially adopted. 15 experts led by Etzioni created a platform stating that neither human existence nor individual liberty can be sustained for long outside the interdependent and overlapping communities to which we all belong. Such a position recognizes both the individual and the social dimension of existence. Communitarian was being seen as the middle ground between individuals and their striving for autonomy, and social conservatives and the quest for social order. Etzioni later called the movement responsive communitarianism and said that citizens in a communitarian society would respect and uphold society's moral order. Now, Etzioni was never a big fan of Piaget and Kohlberg, and he posited that you can educate students in moral values. He presents two views of human nature: benign and willing to learn, or irrational and sinful and in need of values education. Values education. This is where my grandson goes to school. He's 4 and he's in JK, and he's enjoying it for the most part. Some communitarians also feel community service helps. We see this in practice with students at some schools doing 40 or more hours of community service in order to earn their high school diploma. And this in turn smacks of a Christianized value system to many people. Arthur moves on to speak of the communitarian educational approach in England and Wales: daily acts of worship, religious education, community-approved sex education, pastoral support, the state essentially supporting organized religion. The Center for Citizenship Development in Cambridge sees British communitarianism as focused on values teaching and citizenship development. Mutual obligation between people is key, and schools are seen as incubators
for developing social identity.
So, I read that the former United States is so desperate for medical supplies that they have allegedly sent several containers filled with wheat and tobacco. A gesture, they said, of goodwill. You want to know what I think? Well, you're listening to my show, so I will assume you do. I think it's high time we let the colonies know what we really think of them. I think it's payback time for a little tea party they threw for us a few hundred years ago. I say we go down to those docks tonight and dump that crap where everything from the ulcered sphincter of our Serica belongs. Who's with me? Who's bloody with me? Did you like that? USA, ulcered sphincter of our Serica. I mean, what else can you say? It was a country that had everything. Absolutely everything. And now, 20 years later, is what? The world's biggest leper colony. Why? Godlessness. Let me say that again. Godlessness. It wasn't the war they started. It wasn't the plague they created. It was judgment. No one escapes their past. No one escapes judgment. You think he's not up? Came through. We did what we had to do. Islington, Enfield. I was there. I saw it all. Immigrants. Muslims. Homosexuals, terrorists, disease-ridden degenerates. They had to go. Strength through unity. Unity through faith. I'm a God-fearing Englishman, and I'm goddamn proud of it.
That's quite enough of that. Thank you very much.
According to John Gray, cited in Arthur, communitarianism enriches liberal philosophy with new and distinctive insights. The state should be committed to the family, and access to good quality education should not depend on income. You've just seen a scene from V for Vendetta, in which communitarianism and communitarian values are used to mask a fascist society. So the question is it okay for a society with communitarian values to place restrictions on behavior and communication? The philosopher Charles Taylor argued that in a traditional community it is all right to restrict the activities of its members in order to ensure the community's survival. Taylor uses Quebec's language laws as an example in that, quote, Canadian Quebecois authorities should have the right to prevent Francophone parents from educating their children through the medium of English. This also makes one think of Quebec's Values Charter, which is currently an object of great discussion and concern. According to Lacey and Fraser, it's hard to pin down a committed communitarian. Most call themselves liberals. If communitarianism is all about community, then why is it so hard to find a definition of it in the philosophical works? Why is the relationship between community and people not well defined? Lacey and Fraser say that communities are an assumption rather than an explained or defined entity. In the literature, they're geographic or political entities that we think are just there. And yet, in the case of communitarians, they exist as a sociological idea whose boundaries are not clearly understood. Feminism, though, has had a connection to communitarianism because feminist theory both clarifies the nature and role of male power and connects itself to local grassroots organizations. So communitarianism makes some sense in feminist thought. Criticism of communitarianism basically posits that it's fuzzy. No, not fuzzy, fuzzy. It kind of sits between socialism and capitalism, but its secular rhetorical take on moral education is unclear. Lacey and Fraser see communitarianism leaning towards conservatism, its values exploited by right-wing governments. There is not enough strength in communitarians' arguments to make a case for the individual within the construct of society. People become objectified, and the push-pull of community values versus the liberal against the taking away of individual rights argument becomes a basis for much discussion. Thank you for watching.